Hi everybody, this is take two of my X-Men First Class review video. The last one was way too long, so I'll try and boil this down quickly. First of all, thanks again to everybody who commented on my previous vacation vlog, Purple Book Fairy. Thanks very much for making your video response, I appreciate it. I was talking a little bit about favorite movie websites, but today I'm talking of course about X-Men First Class, which I just saw yesterday. And while I found this movie to be very entertaining and fun, and was actually thinking about going to see it a second time before the movie was actually over, I've got a number of issues. You know, the more I think about it, the more I just am concerned that the people who make these movies aren't concerned enough with making these storylines and characters consistent with what has already been established by the previous X-Men movies. And I don't have a problem with characters and story points being different from they are in the comic book series. But if you're making a film series with the same studio, some of the same actors, same producers, whomever, then yeah, there ought to be some consistency there. For example, in X2, it is established through dialogue that it is the father of a mutant child that passes along the mutant gene, even though in the father it might be recessive. And this is almost contradicted by X-Men Origins Wolverine, in which we find out that Wolverine, Logan, and his older brother, Sabretooth, were fathered by two different men, which means that their mother married a man with the mutant gene and then had an affair with another man also with the mutant gene. That seems a little tough to swallow. There are many issues that I have, particularly involving the character of Raven, also known as Mystique. Jennifer Lawrence, she's a terrific actress and she's a very pretty girl, but it's the conception of the character that I have a problem with. I always thought that Mystique was one of the less believable mutant characters because of her abilities. It just seems so outlandish that she's able to do this. It reminds me of that character in that one X-Files episode. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You know, the G is silent or something like that. I can't remember the name of the episode as well, but it's a guy who can imitate other people by changing his skin, changing his hair, and Mystique is able to do the same thing. First of all, she's not able to change her size, as far as I can tell. There doesn't seem to be any reasonable explanation for how she changes her size. And yet in X-Men The Last Stand, she's able to imitate a little girl, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's a completely different movie. For most of the movie, she walks around looking normal, which means that she's disguised herself. She is presumably, she has presumably concocted an image for herself based on what she would look like had she grown up to be, you know, 22 or whatever, because her mutation occurs long before then. In the early scene in the movie, you see her as a little girl, you know, young, 8, 9 years old. She's already mutated. She has the, you know, the skin. You know, she has the blue skin that she's able to use to imitate. However, she needs to be able to see characters and hear them before she can imitate them accurately. In the opening scene, she is sneaking around Charles Xavier's home, and he's also a little kid at the time as well, stealing food. But when she imitates his mother, she shouldn't know what his mother's voice sounds like. She might have seen a picture of her, and so she can imitate what the mother looks like, but she shouldn't be able to imitate the voice because, you know, there's no reason to think that she would have actually met her or not. The second thing is that as established in X-Men The Last Stand, the non-mutated Raven is dark-haired, not blonde. Now, of course, Rebecca Romijn Stamos, or Rebecca Romijn, if you prefer, is blonde most of the time, but the character is dark-haired in that movie. When she loses her powers, she gets hit by the cure, loses her powers, she goes back to being normal, and her hair is dark. But in this movie, her hair is always blonde, which means that she's established some sort of persona for herself, because she doesn't really know what she would authentically look like as a 22-year-old or whatever, you know, which means she's invented a look for her, something like that. She's imitating people, but she's sort of imitating something that she thinks would look like her if she were older, because she doesn't know. You get what I'm saying. That's a minor quibble. A bigger quibble is she manages to change her appearance even though she's wearing outfits, and she's not supposed to be able to do that. She wears an overcoat in one scene, and she's able to change her clothes like they were part of her own skin. In the climax, she's wearing her flight suit for the action scene, and she changes her appearance, despite the fact that she's wearing this yellow outfit. She's not supposed to be able to do that. That's why she walks around naked for most of the movies, is so that she can change her appearance and make it look like she's wearing whatever that particular character she's imitating would wear, without having to rip off whatever she's wearing first. And she shouldn't be able to do that. That it doesn't work like that. So that doesn't make sense. The other thing is that the helmet deal. She imitates the Kevin Bacon character wearing the helmet, and I had a problem with this at first because I didn't think that there was a reason why she would know that he had the helmet in the first place or what it did, so why would she imitate him when he's wearing the helmet? But then I remembered the scene where Kevin Bacon and all his minions attack the mutant quarters for the CIA, and if I remember right, he is actually wearing his helmet in that scene, and then he takes it off. He takes it off because someone tells him that Charles isn't there, and he can and wouldn't be able to read his thoughts because he's not around. Now, during that point, Charles and Magneto are dealing with the Russian general or whatever, and they question Emma Frost. Now, Emma Frost is the psychic, so correct me if I'm wrong. Emma Frost is the one who can reach out with her mind and find out whether or not Charles is in the area, and tell Kevin Bacon, Sebastian Shaw, he's not around, you can take his helmet off. But if she's not actually there, who is it that tells him that it's okay to take his helmet off? I don't recall that. Or maybe he doesn't. I don't remember. For some reason I'm just having a hard time picturing him with his helmet on during that scene once he talks to all the mutants and invites them to join him. Emma Frost is supposed to be one of the good guys, as far as I know. Maybe this is a change from the comic book, but in X-Men Origins Wolverine, she's rescued along with a bunch of other mutants by Wolverine, and then Charles finds them in the helicopter. The last scene, Patrick Stewart as Charles makes a cameo in which he invites them to come out in the helicopter and presumably take them away to his school. So that's, again, a contradiction between what is already established by the previous movies. It's just a small appearance in Wolverine, but I'm pretty sure it has hurt because she's a blonde woman whose skin turns to diamonds, basically. And that's the whole thing right there. In the X-Men, the first X-Men, Charles tells Wolverine that he's been using Cerebro to try and find Magneto, but he seems to have found a way to block his psychic ability. And Wolverine says, "How do you know how to do that?" And Charles goes, "Well, because he helped me build Cerebro." Now, in X-Men First Class, the helmet is there. Magneto gets the helmet from Kevin Bacon's character and uses it, presumably, for the rest of his life to avoid being detected by Charles. And also, Magneto does not help Charles build Cerebro. It's Beast. It's Beast who helps Charles build Cerebro. So again, a contradiction between the first X-Men movie and this one. I'm really confused as to whether or not at this point this is supposed to be a prequel or a reboot. Like Star Trek, they used the whole space-time anomaly to just reboot everything. Despite the presence of Leonard Nimoy, they would have all new actors, but they're redirecting the whole course of the story because things didn't happen, in the previous Star Trek lore that happened in Star Trek. For example, Spock's mother wasn't killed, Vulcan was not destroyed. Those are changes that are made. But there doesn't seem to be a reason for the changes in X-Men First Class from the previous movies, except that they just want to start over. They just want to start over. Hey, it's been 2 years since Wolverine, which didn't do that well and wasn't well liked. And it's only been 11 years since the first X-Men, so we should just redo everything. And that's very disappointing to me. And the biggest things that disappoint me about the new movie, and I'm going to get into some pretty heavy spoilers here, so beware if you haven't already seen the movie. Why do they have to split up Charles and Eric already? They work well together. They're ideologically at odds. They have different attitudes, but there's no reason why they couldn't have had the further adventures of Charles and Eric for at least one more movie before putting them at odds with each other. By the end of the new movie, Eric has the helmet and the cape, and they're split into two different factions. and they're thinking about using the name X-Men, and they've got all their code names, and Charles gets paralyzed already. What the heck is going on here, man? He was not paralyzed in one of the first scenes of X-Men The Last Stand, when he and Eric go and find Jean Grey for the first time. They're still friends at that point. They're still working together, and Charles is still walking around. He's also, of course, still walking around in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which takes place before then. But he gets paralyzed already. Couldn't they have held off on putting McAvoy in the chair until at least the end of the second movie? Anyway. So yeah, those are my biggest quibbles about the movie. It's an entertaining movie. I had fun watching it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Jennifer Lawrence naked in blue in the second, X-Men movie, or the second X-Men prequel, whenever they end up making that one. And I like the cameos. They had 2 cameos from previous X-Men stars in this one, which was nice. Oh, and get this, with the studio logos in the beginning, with the 20th Century Fox logo, and you had the Marvel Studios logo, but in between those, you had a logo for Bad Hat Harry Productions, which presumably is Bryan Singer's company. And the imagery is very familiar to Bryan Singer's fan, and even the music you might recognize as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, entertaining movie, fun action scenes, good acting, all in all. But man, all these discrepancies between this movie and the other X-Men movies really piss me off. Really don't like that at all. So yeah, I'm gonna want to see it a second time. Really, it's a fun movie, but boy, it's like they care but they don't care. What do they really care about, other than we need to keep on continuing making these movies so we can make more money and hold on to the rights. And I was pretty cynical about X-Men Origins Wolverine, but in some ways this movie's even worse. So. Disappointing about that. I was hoping this would be, it certainly involved me more than Thor, but Thor is a better movie, just in terms of consistency, I guess. Maybe I'm being anal, but really, I don't see how I can avoid being concerned about this stuff. Guys, if you want to tell me what you think of the movie, or what you think of the issues that I brought up, please comment, please video response. I know a lot of you guys are doing your own videos on X-Men First Class, and so I'll be watching as many of those as I can. Take it easy. Have a good one.